For once in my life, I have someone who needs me, someone I've needed so long. For once unafraid, I can go where.
Good afternoon. Welcome to day two of For Once in Your Life Challenge. We're so happy that you've joined us. If you're new to join us and this is your first day, welcome. If you were joining us yesterday, well, welcome back. We really thank you. My name is Lourdes de la Mata Little, and I have been at Goodwill for about 20 years. I've had the honor of serving as the executive director of the film For Once in Your Life and For Once in My Life that you will be seeing on Friday, September 18th at 7 p.m. We find ourselves now at Goodwill, South Florida, in the spirit of Goodwill Band Room, which is, you're going to hear more about what that means and who our band is. And again, you might see a lot of plexiglass and a lot of things happening. Obviously, that's to keep our band members safe with COVID and making sure we kind of keep the music playing despite some of the interferences that we've had. So with that, I want to thank everybody for their comments, for their posts, for texts that they've sent about our day one. We did have a few little sound interruptions and little sound issues, but we have been working day and night to make sure that is better this time, and we think it is. So thank you for staying even despite the sound. The inspiration for this project is really focused around the spirit of Goodwill Band. And so what that is a band made up of 25 unique individuals of varying disabilities who come together and play beautiful music. And it's about giving them an opportunity, giving them a chance, and just helping them thrive through music. Goodwill's mission is training and employing people with disabilities and special needs or other needs, and making sure that we teach them work skills so that they could become a functioning member of the community, and then we place them in jobs. But more importantly, it's about optimism, it's about hope, it's about making people feel included and making them feel that they belong. Everyone wants to belong, and they are truly a part of the Goodwill family. And so that is really the reason of why we're doing this challenge. And what we mean by challenge is simply showing up, doing what you can to ask yourself the questions and applying what you've learned here to your life. So with that, I'd like to introduce Javier Peña, who served as the musical director for many years and who was able to bring a group of people to a group of musicians and a well-performing band. So I welcome Javier to the screen. Hi, Javier. How are you?
Hi, Lourdes. How are you? Good to see you. And then it's great to be back on day two on For Once in Your Life Challenge with everybody who is watching. Thank you for having me.
So yesterday we covered the theme, Discover Your Audience. And today we're gonna talk about overcoming your fears, which is obviously a very important topic that we all sometimes struggle with.
Yes, exactly. And then that's what we're going to be talking today. And yesterday was really interesting because I established some framework using the story of the band and the analogy of the orchestra to how we can learn to rise and redefine our purposes. So if you recall yesterday, we talked about the orchestra, and then we talk about how in the orchestra you have musicians, instruments, a conductor, there is an audience, and there is a stage. And using that, yesterday we actually referred to how you can discover your audience by learning to look inside of yourself, into your needs, and how the needs of your audience, the people that you can see around you that you want to connect, how their needs and your needs combine to actually create that energy so you can connect with your audience. So today we want to talk about something that which is the stage. Musicians have a stage, which is the place that they take to perform. And around that stage, there is an invisible barrier, and that barrier it's what we can call fear. And in music, some musicians call it a stage fright, because when they get to perform, it's really, really difficult for them to even perform after even hours of rehearsal. So the point here is that in our life, the stage represents the place that we are called to serve, the place that we are supposed to do, the place that we want to be. This is the desire that we have in our hearts. And it actually is on a step level. It's a step up. Actually, when you go to the stage, you need to take a step up, and which represents in our lives that stage that we want to go. You have desires and you want to go to the next level in your life, whether it's personally, a relationship, in your business, running, whatever you want to do, a business or whatever you want to do in life, you have that desire. So, but what happens is around that stage, as I mentioned, there is this invisible barrier, which is the fear. And the fear is really what is stopping us to go in there. So the question is, what is fear? When remember yesterday we talked about how we want to use the lyrics of the song "For Once in My Life" as a framework as well for to help you remember these lessons that you can apply. So next time you hear the song, you say, "Well, this is what the message is for me." And the continuation of the lyrics of "For Once in My Life," as we're talking about fear, it says, "For once unafraid, I can go where life leads me. Somehow I know I'll be strong." So today we're gonna talking about what is really the stage fright, how to overcome fears in your life. So what is fear? Well, fear is it's a feeling that comes, it's a real feeling that comes into our lives and has a tendency to paralyze us. And it comes in different categories. We have different fears in our lives. We have fear of rejection, we have fear of connecting with people, we have fear of failure, we have fear of many categories of all kinds of fears. Has that feeling of feeling insecure, feeling unsafe, that we don't feel that we actually are connecting, that we don't feel enough, or we don't feel actually, we feel actually inadequate in that sense. So the fear is something that is real, and even more now, that's something that we are experiencing. So the question is, how do we overcome that? And I want to share a story with you that happened to me when I was 6 years old. One day, my dad took me to the airport for the very first time. As I remember, some of you might remember, I'm originally from Venezuela. And I remember being 6 years old when my dad took me to the airport to pick up a friend. And I've never been at the airport. That was my first time actually going to the airport. And it was about an hour from where we lived. And when we arrived there, I was really surprised by looking at all the planes around. There were huge planes, so it was very exciting. But when we were coming closer to get into the building, to get inside of the airport, something really caught my attention. And at the distance, there was a huge, a really very big glass door that was closed. And as we were approaching the door, there was a gentleman who came with some suitcase, and he was really rushing, almost running. I think he was about to miss his flight. And then, as a 6-year-old, never been at the airport at that kind of facility, I was when I saw that man walking or almost running toward the glass door, I started to feel very afraid, because I thought, well, the door is closed. He's gonna smash his head against the glass door because it was closed. But as I was getting really nervous, what happened was that as he was getting closer to the door, magically the gate opened up and he went through and got into the building. And at that moment, I said, oh my gosh. As a child, I said, this is the first time I saw an electric door actually walking. This was in the 70s. You may want to put that into context. Right now, it's kind of pretty standard for every store. So since you are a child, you actually see that. But to me, it was a big surprise. And at that moment, I was so mesmerized by the electric door. I said, wow, this is magic, because when the man came in and then the door closed back again, and as some people were continuing walking, the door opened up again, and actually it was our turn, and the door magically opened. So what happened is there is, to me, that image still is in my mind, because it taught me a great lesson in life, which is how is fear, and what it is fear, and how fear really paralyzes us. So I wanted to think about that story because it has some lessons that really stuck with me over the years. So the first lesson that I want to share with you is that fear is really part of being human. This is something that is part of us. It's something that we cannot get rid of. Actually, fear helps us to stay protected, help us to be safe. When you're gonna go across the street, the first thing that your parents told you or tell you is that, look around to one side, to the other, and then you proceed. You want to make sure there are no cars coming to that. You don't want to be run over a car. So it's the fear of being run over a car that makes you feel like, well, I need to protect myself. So fear is part of being human, and it's good actually for us to have fear. What happens is that when fear takes another role in our lives to control us, that's where the problem begins. Because the issue is that fear is like this passenger that you have in your car that is going to be with you all your life. It's going to be with you. It's never going to leave you. It's this passenger that is riding with you and you cannot kick out of your car. So what happened is that it's good to have the fear there, but the problem begins when fear tries to control you and tries to tell you, hey, don't turn here, don't go there, don't go there, to that point that you actually need to pull over and tell fear, hey, you drive the car and I will just be on the passenger seat. And that's what happened to many of us, that we let fear control our lives in the sense that now fear controls our decisions. We're not in control, but fear is actually controlling that. What turn we make, what turn we do not make. So that's where we need to make sure that we don't let ourselves be controlled by fear. The second point is that knowing that, again, is part of being human. The second point, step I want to mention with you is that we have to make decisions to conquer our fears. And these decisions are very, very important, because every decision that we take in life is just a step to getting closer and closer to our destination. If you recall the story that I just mentioned about the glass door, to me as a 6-year-old child, looking at that for the very first time in my life, it was 1976. I was born in 1970. I'm 50 now. So in 1976 was a novelty, at least in my country, the electric doors. So seeing that, how I understood that taking steps closer to the destination, even though it looked closed, I didn't know that there was an energy that needed to open that door. And what happened is, obviously, over the years, is that I know that there is an electric motion detector that detects the presence of someone getting closer to the door. There is an electrical signal that moves the motor of that pulls some belts and make the whole mechanism for the glass door to open, and that's how you got in. But it's not until you get closer and closer, when you take a step closer to the door, is when opportunities are going to open up for all of us. So actually, we have to make decisions in life to overcome our fears. And the third and last point that I want to share with you is that we don't have to wait until having all the details to take action in our lives. A very common word right now is uncertainty. And it's something that you hear it over and over with the situation that we're living. But the reality is that uncertainty has been a word that has been there forever. Now it's visible, but it has been forever, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So uncertainty is part of who we are as human beings. So the idea is that we don't need to have a whole plan to actually make decisions to conquer our fears. And as the lyrics of the song, that, like I described at the beginning, says, "For once unafraid, I can go where life leads me somehow." It says, somehow I know I'll be strong. I don't know how. Sometimes we want to have every detailed plan, and until we don't have every detailed plan, we don't want to move. And that's keep us paralyzed. So the point is that you don't have to have the whole plan. When we started the Goodwill Bend, when I was started 15 years ago, well, more than that actually, because I've been out there like 8 years. But when we started at the beginning, we have no clue. We have no idea how this little group of musicians in this small room, and there was a choir, and then it became a band. It was going to end up actually to the level that we saw in the film, a group that been invited to the White House and been literally in over 20 countries. we didn't have any idea, but we took one step at a time. And the whole, I mean, the people, the musicians, the parents, the counselors, everybody, we were taking one step at a time without knowing what the whole thing was going to happen. And then, but in that way, we were conquering our fears. So I want to encourage you to do your homework. And then if you go to Unit 2, you're going to be able to download the worksheet. And basically, there are three questions. The questions are, what are your desires? What are the things that you desire the most? Your top three desires or dreams. List them. Number two, what are the fears that are preventing you to reach your dreams or your desires? What are those three fears? And it's important to name them because when we actually name our fears, it's very hard to fight an invisible enemy. You don't know what it is. But when you actually say, okay, I am afraid of feeling rejected, I am afraid of failing, I am afraid of being ashamed, whatever the fear might be, it's good that you name it because in that way you can conquer even better. So name that. And number three is what in the homework, what actions can you take today in this week to move forward to conquer your fears? And doesn't have to be like a outrageous decision. It could be something small steps, like people call baby steps, to actually getting closer again to that door that is going to open for you at the right time when you're ready to conquer your fears. So I want to close before I pass on to you, Lourdes. I want to close with a story that I was thinking about this morning with one of our band members, and his name is Godwin. Godwin came to our band as a pianist, as a musician. He had some basic skills, and I was really excited when I met Godwin. And Godwin, for some of you that haven't seen the film, he was born with autism, which is a condition that impairs the social communication and interaction in that way that he had at that time. And he is verbally limited to express his thoughts verbally. So when we were working together, Godwin and I noticed that I gave him some songs to challenge him to play the piano, and I knew he had the great potential to do that. So I was challenging him by teaching him those songs. But what happened is that, as any musician, when he was practicing, guess what? He was making mistakes, like any musician does when he's learning a new song. The problem was that Cowan felt so anxious every time that he made a mistake. He felt a lot of fear because he didn't want to fail. As you may know, the majority of people with autism are perfectionists, and Cowan certainly was a perfectionist. So as he was making mistakes, he was just feeling really anxious about making those mistakes. So what happened is that he started to play really fast, and he wanted to finish the song faster than what it was supposed to be. And it was not on the same tempo of the rest of the musicians because he just wanted to conquer that fear that way. He just wanted to get rid of that fear right away. So I have to really start teaching him. Actually, he was the one who told me how to teach him. So I had to take little portions of the songs, and I said, God, well, we're just gonna do these two measures. In music, you divide the song in measures or bars. And I said, we're just gonna do these two, and don't worry about the rest. And we started to work on that. And eventually, that anxiety that he felt because he wanted to do all this and he was afraid of making mistakes, actually he was able slowly starting this transformation of conquering those fears measure by measure by measure. And at the end, he was able to play the entire song and actually enjoy, because he was not enjoying before. He would just wanted to play the whole thing from the beginning to the end. But now he was enjoying because he was able to conquer those fears one measure at a time. So thank you. When you think about that, look into how you can conquer your fears, because fear is going to be present, and you can break that invisible barrier to rise and redefine your purpose.
Wow, that's wonderful, Javier. Really important stuff. I remember actually a few years ago, you and I had a conversation as we kind of went on our journey with this film, and as you said, talk about feeling fear. Is we just started to record, right, and have footage and film. We didn't have a storyline. We didn't know how it was going to end, but we went forward with it anyways. And I remember you saying that story about the glass doors. And it's interesting because I still think of it often. It's kind of like you have to take those first steps because as you begin to walk, new opportunities, new ideas, and you're in a different place, and you have to trust those steps. They're going to take you somewhere, and then you're going to be thinking differently. You're going to be feeling differently. New opportunities come, and so there's a lot of value in taking those first steps so that you trust that the doors will open, and they will. So that was all, very important information. So, and like I said, when we were doing the film, we didn't know how the story was going to unravel. As I said, we went ahead and we have a beautiful story to share, and you'll see that on Friday with the film for Once in My Life. So
Yeah, and I would just like to close with reminding people that you have been called to be on a particular stage to connect with your audience. That's very, very important. You have that. So in order to go to your stage, you need to conquer that fear. You need to actually break that invisible barrier of that surrounds your stage, because that's the place that you need to be. So fear is there, but we can conquer one measure at a time.
right. So feel the fear and do it anyways, because it's not going anywhere. But don't let it drive that car. You drive it, right? That's
Exactly.
a good lesson to have. Okay. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about too, that what we're talking about isn't really just your personal life. When we're talking about your professional life as well, your career, where you're going to take it, what are your next moves? Are you stuck? Are you doing things just because it's habit? Are you doing things just because it's easy? No one said it would be easy, right? Everything takes a little bit of thought and a little bit of a journey, as we said, defining your audience. And so fear is something that all companies and their management team deal with on a basis. In the business world, we call it challenges. But at the end of the day, behind challenges, there are always some very real feelings of fear. And so in a case like this, Goodwill as a nonprofit, our job is to always provide services. We provide services to 7,000 people each year. People who have disabilities, who have barriers to employment, who are sometimes lost in trying to find their way. So amidst this pandemic and amidst COVID, where we were forced to make some very hard decisions, as was everybody else around the world, which meant closing our 34 stores. That is a very big financial hit to this organization. In addition to obviously the many thousands of people that were affected, we furloughed 2,800 people. Our sewing department, which you're going to hear about in a little bit, also had to close down. And so we had, as an organization, have to really re-strategize and rethink how we were going to get up and, from these ashes and really pick up where we left off. It is absolutely critical that an organization like Goodwill continue to move forward, because so many people depend on us. And so we had to re-strategize. We had to think about what could fall by the wayside, what we could focus on, and really kind of get on the straight and narrow and focus on what we can do best, because so many people rely on us. And that is a very big fear that most organizations fear. In addition to that, one of the best things that you can use as a measure to fear is using calculated risks. We're not saying go nutty, wake up one day and just go do radical things. No, it's all about taking calculated risks. Do some research. What are the steps that it's going to take there? How long is it going to take you to do that? But what we do ask is, do please take those first few steps. They're definitely the hardest, there's no question. But I think that once you do start taking those first steps, you're going to feel better, you're going to feel more confident, and you're going to be able to want to go ahead and take that step. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and invite our next guest, which is Godwin, someone that Javier had already mentioned in his story. He is the keyboardist of our band, and we're going to have him here in just a second, along with his counselor Wanda Martel.
Even though we're twin brothers, in a way he's always like my kid brother, so to speak. Piano was something that I started Godwin on about 10 years ago, because I was learning at the time, and I thought, well, I think it would be a good idea for Godwin to learn it also. And it's a ball that he took, and he's been running with it ever since.
When they're little, when I put them side by side, little babies, people say, "Oh, how cute they are!" But later on, when they running, they grow out a little bit, and sometimes when we go out, when going misbehave, think people were kind of. Some people were nice, but most of them were kind of look at me strangely. How come this mother don't discipline his kid? And later on, we found out that has autism. I was so ashamed, so so distressed, so ashamed. At work, right? No, all my coworker, my boss, nobody know that I have a special child. I just keep it to myself. We are Chinese people. Our culture is kind of like very private, you know, and I just feel a little bit like ashamed to talk to people about, But now I grow up too. I feel that hey, you know, this is not going ask for that. This is not me, and we want, it's what can I say? It's nobody's fault. It's just that God sent us this special child. We need to do our best to love him.
So here we are. With Godwin. Hi, Godwin. Can you say hello? So we have somebody here that's special. That you might recognize. Javier. Do you remember Javier?
Yeah.
Yes. You see him?
Javier.
Nice to see him, right?
Nice to you.
So Godwin, you play the piano? You like to play the piano?
Yes.
Yes. Do you practice every day?
Yes.
Yes. And you learn music fast? You learn music?
Yes.
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 Okay, good. So some of the notes that I have here from Orlando, your current musical director, right? He considers you a musical genius, right?
Yes.
And he says that one of the things that never cease to amaze him is how fast you learn how to play a song.
Yes.
You listen, you practice it 2 or 3 times, and then you got it, and then you play the song,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yes. And you keep everything in your head.
Yes.
You don't need musical notes.
Yes.
Everything is in your head. So he has a lot of skills that makes it really. Orlando, our musical director, says he is somebody calling you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That he is a musical genius, and one of the beautiful things about Godwin that has been brought to my attention is that he plays with a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions, and it's really interesting because a lot of the way that Godwin operates or runs through his day is with very routines and very strict schedules. But it's almost like when he plays the song and the music comes, and the music comes to life, that he closes his eyes and he feels it and he plays the music beautifully, and that's what makes him a really a great keyboardist. And so he's very decisive. So when he makes up his mind and it's time for lunch, it's time for lunch, whether we're rehearsing or not. It's just kind of get up and go. He has great memory and he has great talent, and so that makes for a wonderful musician, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then behind me, I'd like to introduce Wanda Martel. As I said, this is a little awkward because of the COVID. So she's sitting on the other side of the plexi there. So Wanda Martel, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. So tell us a little bit about what it's like working with Godwin. Tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been at Goodwill.
All right, the first time it was in the 90s, 1995, and then Godwin came the year after.
Oh, okay.
So my second time back here, I was on 4 years ago. So I came back and I saw Godwin and I was amazed because I mean he had grown a lot in every area, especially in the social part. So yeah.
That's wonderful. So you've seen, so Goodwill has helped him kind of develop who he is to a full potential.
Yeah.
Right? So he's able to socialize more. He has a little bit more discipline,
Yeah.
right? He is able to manage his autism a little bit better. Okay, that's great. And so Godwin is also, when he's not in the band room, he also works in our sewing division, which I'm going to talk a little bit about after. And he sews as part of the military uniforms that we make. He's very good at his job, and again, so he is at Goodwill. He learns the social development part that he gains while he's working as a musician in the band, and then you could see he's very productive, and he does a very important part of the sewing of the military uniforms that we make. So as you saw in the video, Godwin also has a support system from his mom and his twin brother, who is also a musician. Is your brother a musician?
Yes.
He plays the piano too?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So thank you for being here, Godwin. We really appreciate
Yes.
you being here.
Yes.
We really enjoy your music. You play beautifully, and
Yes.
we know that you love when Orlando tells you you do a good job.
Job.
A good job? How do you sew a good job?
Job.
Like that? You do a good job. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was again, Goodwill's mission and what we do. So many of you know us with as a nonprofit. I know many of you know that we do good in the community. And that we help people, but many times people kind of confuse us with some of the other nonprofits. And the best way to remember Goodwill is to remember that we are about jobs. We are about teaching people how to work. And how do we do that? We have different divisions that we use, and our most popular is our Goodwill stores. Our Goodwill stores, they're all the Goodwills around the country have Goodwill stores. We receive the donated merchandise that many of you generously give us every single day, and we appreciate that, and we sell them in our stores. Another thing that we do is we manufacture flags for veterans, for military funerals. We are the ones who actually produce the interment flags that lay over the caskets at these military funerals. Our sewing manufacturing is where Godwin works, and many of our band members work when they're not playing. You can see that we have taken safety measures with COVID, and there's a lot of barriers. The newest division is our laundry. We do a commercial laundry where we clean all the hospital linens and gowns for all of the major hospitals in the Miami area. It is a state-of-the-art division, and it is an area that allows us to employ people who are re-entering citizens, ex-offenders. And we do custodial. We clean over 115 buildings, state, federal, and local janitorial services. And our last and newest division is what we call our third-party logistics. And so we do ship and pack, we do fulfillment, we do warehousing, and so that's a new division that we're also starting. The reason that we have all of those divisions is because it allows us two things: to put people with disabilities in jobs so that they can learn work skills and understand the work ethic. And the second thing is to be able to, for us, Goodwill, to generate revenue that helps us pay for our mission. And so right now we are in a place where, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to do as much balancing and juggling as we can to continue to operate these divisions while we continue to provide the services for the people that we serve. What we wanted to do is talk about day 3 tomorrow, dreaming of your melody. And again, continue to do your homework. If you didn't do yesterday's, do it now. Again, one thing falls in step of the other. And so we look to helping you rise and redefine your purpose, and we'll see you tomorrow. With that, I'll leave you another clip of our film so that you can enjoy it. Thanks, and see you tomorrow.